Okay, I am live and just hit refresh on ye old MLB trade rumors page, and immediately we have some new news as we're going live here. Just like a few years ago when the Nick Madrigal trade happened, Jake Berger is being shipped out of Chicago to Miami. This was a little bit of this is a surprise to me. I did not see this one coming. I feel good for Jake. I feel happy for him. I thought he had fought himself into being an untradeable person in a good way. That the White Sox, I mean, he's our number 2 power hitter right now. He's got 25 home runs, and really, I think he pushed himself into being gonna miss Jake Berger. Jake Berger was one of the big exciting, and now I can put comments up on the screen, unlike in past years. So anybody who's tuning in, I didn't even get to do an intro because there's breaking news as as I started about an hour to go for the trade deadline. And Jake Berger, I thought he really cemented himself as a versatile player. And he was one of my favorite stories of the last couple of years, a guy that went through terrific, horrible injuries to lose years of development and still didn't quit baseball, didn't give up on himself and on his own journey, and fought himself to the point that he's on the big league roster, filling in at first, and now he's pushed himself in to be a cemented person in the team, and he's been playing at second base, so he's really proven that he's doing whatever it takes to get out there. But Jake Berger heading out to Miami. Always good to remember that Miami's general manager started out as an intern in the White Sox front office. So that's definitely somebody that knows a lot about the White Sox team, the White Sox roster. I'm going to miss Jake Berger as well. I'm obviously going to still be rooting for him. I do like to root for Miami because of the White Sox connection. Also have Avi Garcia down there who he has not really lived up to that contract that he got, but he was a guy that I like to root for back in the day. But Miami, we are getting pitching prospect Jake Eder. Jake Eder reports Craig Mish. Okay. So a surprise deal given the White Sox focus on trading short-term assets. Berger controllable for another 5 years beyond the current season. And yes, his swing and miss is an issue. He strikes out a bit, more than a bit. That batting average is quite low at 214. But I don't know. I thought he deserved a place on the team. That's a really, really interesting one. A whopping 25 home runs in the season, but 5th worst on base percentage of any player in the majors with at least 300 plate appearances. So we are definitely going to, he's a fun guy to watch, fun guy to root for. He looked great in the home run jacket and fedora. I was excited to see him actually get 30 home runs on the year. And he's going to get there. He's only 5 away, and there's several months left. Let's see, just checking around. And people, please do comment, leave your ideas, what you want to talk about, any of your own insight, things you want to see happen. There's only 62 minutes left of the trade deadline. Let's see what other big news has gone on. Not a lot recently, but as we know, this heats up, and we're going to be hitting the refresh button quite a lot. I did not see Jake Berger being somebody that was going to be traded. The big news of the day, and which I thought this was going to be coming down to the last couple of minutes of the trade deadline, but yes, it was official. Justin Verlander heads back to Houston, and this is such a huge. As much as we understandably as White Sox fans, this has been a hell of a disappointing year. But I think no team in baseball can be as disappointed as New York Mets fans. They had no problem. Steve Cohen had no problem just blowing past the highest thresholds of the luxury tax, going deep within the Cohen tax, the tax named for him. And now they are in panic, let's save money mode, because they were so high up, where they were at a level where they were paying the salaries plus another 90% on everything over that threshold. So almost double at that point. And now I think they're doing anything that they can, because also when you're at that level, not only are you paying a lot of money, but you are losing international bonus pool money. You are being pushed down on where your team will be getting their next draft picks. You're losing draft positioning. So there's a lot of good reason for the Mets to strategically say we have to bail, we have to get some money off of our books. And in this Verlander deal, they are still paying a lot, but it will help them get below that level. His Justin Verlander's income was just a super high contract. Average annual value of $43.33 million, which is, of course, tied his battery mate, not his battery mate, but his roster mate, Max Scherzer's same average annual. And that is interesting. Eduardo Rodriguez vetoes a trade. Now, he is an interesting person, obviously, as fans of the AL Central know. Big contract given to him by the Tigers. I say big for a smaller market team. And then he went MIA last year. Let's see. So here we go. Zach the Potato. Jake Burger is amazing, but why do we keep Sebi Zavala, Yaz, and Yohan Moncada? They do nothing. So it's interesting. I was actually just talking with a friend. There's a lot of talk about Yasmani Grandal. For one, it's always difficult to trade a catcher right now because they have to just immediately learn an entire new pitching staff. Not saying it's not going to happen. He is the last. Yasmani is the highest paid person on the White Sox team on an expiring contract. I think they can probably find a way to move him going to a team that maybe needs a DH type, a third catcher. Yasmani brings value. He is a professional hitter. Obviously, we are seeing that he's past his prime. He can hit a ball into the gap and barely make first base. Those catchers' knees, they age. But Sebi Zavala, now I'm not saying that there's much interest in him, but he's younger. He's more controllable for longer. Might a team be interested in a Sebi Zavala type? I don't think he is part of the future of the White Sox. He's definitely not the future catcher of the White Sox. So I think Zavala is a very easy to get player for another team that might have interest in more catching. But the fact is that soon the White Sox will need to start making a little bit of room, because as we're going to take a look at, we're going to review the moves that have already happened this year for the White Sox, actually just in the last week. White Sox have some catching prospects, and one is Major League ready, and we got to start getting him up and getting him ready. I've said that this is pre-spring training for next year. We're going to start to get some looks at players that will be the future of the White Sox. First off, I just have to acknowledge, I hate that we are in this minor rebuild. I don't want to tear the whole thing down. I know a lot of people just say trade everybody and let's just wipe the slate clean. I'm not ready for that. I'm not emotionally ready for that. I do not, please, dear God, don't trade Dylan Cease. We have some more coming in. John Smith, I just saw something saying with the acquisition of all-star starter, Michael Lorenzen, the Phillies have now have the best rotation. Thought that was funny. Is that who wrote that? Because I agree that it's funny. There's no way that's the best rotation. Berger could stay at second. Yeah, and if Berger stays at second, dude, you have a second baseman hitting 30 home runs. We haven't seen that since Robinson Cano, right? He was a second baseman, right? Obviously, he had some other issues going on. But yeah, Eduardo Rodriguez vetoing the trade to the Dodgers. It's interesting to see that Detroit is looking to move on past him. But Rodriguez has a no trade clause. I was trying to see if it's 10 teams. So it's a limited no trade clause, about a third of baseball he can block trades to. So as there's nothing major coming in now. You would have traded Elvis and not Jake. I think that there's not that much interest in Elvis Andrus. It's nice to have a veteran leadership type guy on the team, but how much value does he really have? I'm sure his contract is cheap. I don't remember off the top of my head what he's playing on. It's got to be a very affordable contract because he couldn't find work anywhere. All these teams, let's remember that too. All these teams could have signed Elvis Andrus for not that much, and he languished in free agency until right before, or maybe even after spring training had started. So I just think there's not that much interest in Elvis Andrus. John Smith says no to blowing it all up. Nobody's untouchable. Ship Cease and Bummer to the Orioles. So I am really open to the idea of trading Aaron Bummer. He is somebody that the White Sox say that they don't want to trade. Maybe that's negotiating. Maybe they're trying to make his price go up. Bummer is a guy that has tremendous stuff. and he has the ability to be exceptional. And we've seen flashes of that. I think he's a change of scenery candidate. And I think a lot of teams out there know that too, that he has good stuff, but maybe some better coaching, some better people around him can help him find his control a little bit better. Aaron Bummer, without a doubt, who I think might be the longest tenured player on the White Sox. Yeah, he brings value, but I would love to see him have an opportunity elsewhere. Let's see. Wish Liam was healthy and he would gain interest. See, I wouldn't want to blow that up. We do have him next year. He's on his guaranteed deal, which is technically an option for $15 million with a $15 million buyout. That weird structuring means that he'll actually have zero impact to the luxury tax for the White Sox next year. So even though he is getting a $15 million contract, he is not going to count at all against the White Sox luxury tax. And if we are going to contend next year, which I really, really hope we do, the White Sox do, we'll need a closer. And there's just nobody out there than Liam when Liam is healthy. Let's see. Why don't we trade 110 shortstop? Why don't we trade 110 and Lenny Sosa? I think he's another guy that just doesn't have a lot of trade value. I mean, we saw what he's done. We've given him a good chance up here, and I'm not writing him off entirely, but he's not ready to really do much damage at the major league level. Speaking of which, Josh Harrison got DFA'd. Philly is making some room for Michael Lorenzen. All right, well, let's take a quick look. Actually, where do we start? Let's take a look at the wild card standings, because it is always good to know where teams are when looking at the trade deadline. And trying to make this easier to see, bigger to see. In the American League, the Yankees are just barely out of it, one game out of that third place, third wildcard seed. Boston 3 back, Seattle 4, LA Angels, Anaheim, not calling them LA, Anaheim and Cleveland, each 4.5 back. John, killing me. Don't see us contending for another 4 years at least. As things stand right now, I understand why you say that. I don't, in this moment, see the White Sox competing next year. Also, I don't have faith in leadership, in ownership. Just quite honestly, we're going to take a look at the money that the White Sox have already saved for this trade deadline. And it's one thing to celebrate, hey, the White Sox save money, but then you have to believe that they're actually going to spend it in free agency. And, our ownership has not shown that they are willing to do that almost ever. We've never had a free agent contract over $100 million, which today, that's not that much money in this market of this game. So I'm always hopeful, but right now I understand feeling that way, and I don't want to put a number on it of when I think we're going to be competitive again. Berger was young. He's 25, 26. Yeah, he's definitely a younger guy. He has a chance to develop more. And he's already got the power there. I mean, without a question, Berger has the power, and yeah, he could become a better hitter over time. More coaching, just more experience as well. Let's see, Benny Biceps, the biggest free agent signing in Sox history. Absolutely, and I'm a fan of Andrew Benintendi. I think when the White Sox are scuffling, and you see all these guys just grounding out on 2 pitches. Andrew Benintendi comes up there, and you can see that he's a professional hitter, that he will work counts, that he'll make the pitcher work. And obviously he's not getting any balls out of the outfield. He's got 1 home run on the year, something like that. It's kind of shameful. And it's hard to have a corner outfielder not hitting home runs, but he is a professional hitter. I think he elevates the club a lot. Playing by example. And obviously, as we talked about during the live stream when we first signed him, just the improvement, having him playing left field instead of Eloy, that adds a lot defensively as well. But yeah, I am a fan of Andrew Benintendi. Good player, but can't be your highest paid player. Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that the White Sox have to bid over market value to attract a free agent. And that's not going to change until we start winning and showing that this is a club worth keeping an eye on, that you want to play for. And the White Sox, sadly, we were on the cusp of being at that level not long ago. 2020, 2021, the Field of Dreams game. There's all this good stuff going on, and then it just fell so flat, so hard. The Tony La Russa year, and I'm not saying it's all his fault, but he didn't help much. And then this year has just continued that downward spiral. It's just so wild how far the White Sox standing has fallen. And I'm not talking about literal standings, but just how exciting of and fun to watch a team they are. How do I think Ozzie Guillen be tonight on show because Jake was his favorite? Ooh, yeah. I guess I was going to say I don't think I'd want to be on set, but maybe I'd really want to be on set to see the dynamic as Ozzie is crying. So speaking of standings, I want to just convey my puzzlement to the Angels, as I do often, because as screwed up as the White Sox decisions have often been, I think the Angels are an even worse front office, and they made the move to get Lucas Giolito, and they got saddled, I think, with Ronaldo Lopez. Lopez is a guy I was always rooting for, but he was always borderline at best. It's too bad that he couldn't turn the corner and really lock down that closer role, because it was there for him. It was his for the taking, and it didn't work out. The Angels had the opportunity here. First off, I think first and foremost, do everything in the world to extend Shohei Ohtani. But short of that, because they haven't done that yet, the trade is something that had to happen. And the Angels could have gotten a lot. I can't even imagine. And that's part of it too. I would have loved to see what would it have taken to get Shohei Ohtani off the Angels. They decide not to shop him, and instead they pick up Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez from the White Sox, giving up some good prospects in exchange. And they are 4.5 games back, as we see. They have to stay ahead of Cleveland. They have to get ahead of Seattle, Boston, Yankees, and one of Toronto, Houston, or Baltimore. They have to leapfrog 5 pretty good teams, while they themselves are not that good of a team. And that would just be to sneak in as the number 3 wildcard seed. I feel like they have made some decisions this year that are going to have long-term negative effects on the team. I joked at the time when Lucas Giolito was traded that, poor Lucas, he has guaranteed himself another year of not playing in October, because the Angels are just one of the worst teams, I think, when it comes to front office decisions. Same one, Bull. Yeah. Just talking about that too. Bull with MJ. I don't know if you're talking about the Bulls and MJ, Michael Jordan, but I was just lamenting that why am I the 2 teams I'm the biggest fan of, 1, White Sox by far, but 2, the Chicago Bulls, and they've got the same owner. And will I ever get out of this spiral that of teams just kind of being good and on the cusp, but just not there? And by the way, just checking in really quickly, no updates. I really thought something else would have come up by now, because things are usually fast and furious on this day. But let's take a quick look on what's happened within the White Sox. Let's see. Here you go. They're screwed, meaning the Angels. They already had a weak farm system and traded from that to get players for one season. Yes, they were rental players. That's something very much worth paying attention to. The Angels already had a weak system, and they traded away some good prospects for rentals that likely won't help them out this year. I do feel lucky, or not lucky, but I feel happy for Lucas Giolito, a guy from Southern California. He kind of gets to go home. I know his first outing, he pitched well, but the Angels still lost. And I see that being something that might continue. And of course, they had a horrific injury just yesterday, a couple days ago. Was it Taylor Ward? I can't remember exactly. It was somebody who got hit in the face and is out for the rest of the year with facial fractures. Devastating, but just again showing that the Angels have such an uphill battle ahead of them. Also, they're going up against the likes of Houston and Texas, and of course, Texas just got Max Scherzer. And Houston just got Justin Verlander. So they've got some competition within their division. And also going to Houston is Kendall Graveman. So here we'll just take a quick look at this. As we saw, first big move of the trade deadline season was Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez heading over to Anaheim. White Sox get catcher Edgar Cuero. He is considered either the 61st or 85th best prospect in all of baseball, and a pitcher, Kai Bush, who was the 9th best prospect within the Angels system. The White Sox saved about $3.5 million on Giolito and another $1.25 million on Lopez. And pretty shortly after there, Kendall Graveman heads over to Houston. The White Sox get another catching prospect in Corey Lee, who is considered the 75th best prospect in all of baseball. So that right there, the White Sox pick up 2 of the top 100 players in all of baseball, prospects wise. So that's exciting. It's always rough to lose guys, but it's interesting to see exciting young talent coming back. On Kendall Graveman's contract, they are saving about $2.75 million this year, and then he did have, it was a 2-year deal, another $8 million for next year that is off the books now. And then who I thought was the White Sox number one number one candidate to get traded was Lance Lynn. He does go with Joe Kelly to Los Angeles. White Sox pick up Nick Mastriani, who is either the number 10th or 6th best prospect in the Dodgers system. Jordan Leisure, and strangely enough, the White Sox are getting back yet again Trace Thompson, who he's injured. He will be coming back before the end of the season. Must have been a little bit of a salary compensation there. I don't really know why the White Sox went to get Trace Thompson. It must have been, again, to be able to get these guys, Dodgers needed to unload something. So saving $6.25 million from Lance Lynn's contract, plus he had a $1 million buyout next year, another $3 million from Joe Kelly, and a $1 million buyout on his option next year. I didn't know we got anything for Lynn. You know, Lynn, he's at the beginning of this year, he looked like an untradeable guy. Not only at the beginning of this year, but because last year he was so bad, 2022, he was rough, and he got off to a rough start this year. It looked like this is going to be we're just going to have to eat this $18 million contract that he was on, and then obviously there's another $1 million going to his buyout. But yeah, the fact that White Sox were able to get anything for Lance Lynn, he did really bounce back in the last, I don't know, couple of months, month and a half, maybe at the most. So it was really nice for the White Sox to be able to get anything for him, because I do not think the White Sox would have picked up his contract for next year. Still no news on the trade deadline front. If anybody does see something before I do, feel free. And this comes up all the time, and it's fair. It's absolutely fair. But we also have to remember that when the White Sox traded Fernando Tatis Jr. for James Shields, Big Game James, who's not very big game James for us, he was not a highly regarded prospect, and he was a skinny, weak little guy, and then he bulked up. Like the next offseason, he went on some sort of a training program, and he got so much muscle mass, muscle tone, and then became this incredible player just like 6 months after we traded him. That sucked. Like, he wasn't a highly regarded prospect at the time. He was a throw-in. He wasn't even the most highly regarded prospect in that deal. But man alive, it just goes to show that, especially when you're talking about minor leaguers and young minor leaguers, that their journey to the majors can go a million different ways, and in very big ways. Speaking of, we're going back to San Diego here. Luis Patino, who came over to San Diego from the Rays, I believe. The White Sox are acquiring him for cash. Now, that's probably not considered a big move, but Patino was a very interesting prospect once upon a time. Let's see what's going on with him. I think he's been playing in the bigs. So this year, just 2 games this year. So he really hasn't been playing. He does not have a lot of service time. All right, so I like it. I mean, I don't know, knowing the White Sox have really dealt away, I should say, a lot of pitchers. So this is a guy who might come up and get an extended look in the White Sox bullpen. I like that. And he was a pretty celebrated young player once upon a time. Let's take a quick look at his minor league numbers. So this year, not so great, honestly. I'm guessing the White Sox did not pay very much to get him. So let's take a quick look to remember how he had moved around. Sorry, as I'm giving everybody motion sickness. Where the hell are the transactions? There we go. Traded by the Padres with Blake Hunt, Cole Wilcox, Francisco Meja to the Rays for Blake Snell. So yeah, there you go. I think he must have had some injury issues as well, somewhere along the way. Let's see. Yeah, for just cash. Isn't that wild? He could have played second base. Are you talking about Tatis Jr. there? he's become a very interesting case as well, as we know that he had a PED suspension. He missed a lot of time due to injury from some irresponsible. I can't remember if it was a motorcycle accident or something. I could be. I know Aaron Rowan had that, but yeah, he was. I know there was a strange, irresponsible injury that cost him a lot of time too. Let's see, Padres picking up. This is official. This was announced earlier, but made official now. The Pirates. Let's go back over to the standings and looking at the wild card standings. The Pirates, man, they were such an exciting team at the beginning of this year. Hold on. Who will be number 2 in home runs for us now? I wish it was going to be Andrew Vaughn, and it probably will be, but Vaughn is somebody that's considered somewhat untradeable for the White Sox, but he just has not taken that step forward this season. I don't want to put too much on his shoulders because a lot of guys underperformed, but Andrew Vaughn is one that I really was expecting a lot more from, and it just has not worked out for him. Actually, we can take a look over at the White Sox site and get the ads out of the way. Stats. So who is currently our number 2? It's Aloy with 13 and Vaughn with 13. Again, both of those guys. Aloy has had a really nice year, I think. Those power numbers are lower than I want it to be, but his batting average 285 on base plus slugging at about 800. That is, the borderline of all-star caliber, 800 slugging. I'd like to see that go up a little bit, but that's solid. But look at Andrew Vaughn there, 475 or 745. Got a little dyslexic. Not super far off, but I do expect more from Andrew Vaughn moving forward. That average is low and those power numbers are low. I believe in him. I think he will be able to take the next step. Hopefully this is a year with a lot of learning. But who do I think? Who do you think? I'll throw that out there. Who do you think between Aloy and Vaughn will be the number 2 home run hitter this year? And why are so in love with Yoan? You could say, why are the White Sox so in love, or why am I so in love with Yoan? He's a guy that I've got his back a lot. I know this is yet another, sadly, it's another lost year for Yoan because he's lost a lot of time to injury. Also, he's on a pretty long contract. Let me actually pull up the White Sox numbers here too, and we can all take a look at them together. So Moncada here, yeah, he is expensive and getting very expensive. Next year, he's got $24.8 million remaining on his deal, and he has not been worth it. He has not lived up to it. He's had some good years, but it's been a while since he's had some good years. I don't want to make excuses, but here I go, I guess. He lost a lot of time in 2020 when he got COVID, like that early strand of COVID where it just beat the hell out of him. But he still showed promise through fighting that injury. But he is one of the few guys that has not been able to get out of that injury-prone tab. I do always have to point out how great he is with the glove. He is a solid third baseman. Is he worth 17.8? No. Is he worth 24.8? Really, no. I think that those numbers make him a little bit untradeable right now. Untradeable might be a little strong. A trade could always be worked out, but it would be tough to work out those numbers with some acquiring team. Let's take a look back here. Trying to find. Let's see. I despise Yo-Yo. Oh my gosh, I'm so done with him. I understand frustration. I 100% understand frustration because, we just haven't seen the realization of what I think his numbers could be. Yeah, there he is. Let me switch back to here. So Moncada on the year, batting 229, on base plus slugging 624. Obviously, very low numbers. He's only appeared in 43 games compared to Luis, who is in 104. So he's missed more than half the year. His numbers, only 3 home runs on the year. So yeah, I mean, he's having yet another offseason. What could possibly come for him? I have no idea because he's got a long way to go to reach that level of earning a $20 million a year contract. And he's just absolutely not there yet. But what do you do? What do you do? Even if you are not a big fan. So, okay, here we go. Maybe this is going to go right on it. What if Yoan Moncada get hurt, backup got traded? Oh, you're talking about with Jake Berger being gone. Yeah, no, fully. I fully agree with that. That's another reason why the Berger trade is so surprising, because Moncada is injury prone. I guess you put Remillard back over there. Romy Gonzalez is supposed to get off the injured list in August, but it's not like he's an outstanding player as well. I mean, he's fine, replacement level. At this point in the year, though, I suppose you don't even care, really. Every loss just helps you get to a better draft position or a better lottery position as things go right now. But yeah, it's a bleak time. We'll be looking forward to, I think, the offseason and seeing who becomes available in free agency, what the White Sox are even thinking, including, is there going to be a new general manager? I think it's way past time to really take a look and say, hey, really, do we really need to be holding on to Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn? I was behind Hahn so strongly with the current rebuild, the one that should be paying off right now. That, we had Chris Sale and Q and Eaton, and we weren't winning. So you might as well trade those guys away and get prospects back. And we got great prospects back, and they built the team that looked really good, and then it didn't pay off. They didn't supplement, and they were so flat-footed this past offseason. I was begging and screaming to the heavens, please pick up another starting pitcher, and beyond Mike Clevenger, and they just absolutely didn't. And we see that there's more than one thing that went wrong this year, but another starting pitcher would have been really nice to have. Yeah, exactly. Totally get that too. Can't wait to watch the top free agents sign elsewhere. Yeah, exactly. That's why I mean, in a perfect world, I'd love new ownership and a new front office. There's no way both of those are going to happen, but maybe one of those. And I don't even know. I mean, honestly, I'll throw my hat into the ring and I'll go for free. You don't have to pay me. But I'll write checks on White Sox checkbooks to try to bring the biggest names in, guys that actually will fill out a team and make a difference. Just checking the wire here. Nothing much going on. Cardinals suddenly have a last minute vacancy to fill. I thought so. Here we go. Wait, here we go. Coming back here to your comments. The issue with Jerry is that he's too loyal with Rick and Kenny because they're his guys. They don't need to worry about losing their jobs because Jerry will never get rid of them. It's true. It's absolutely true. We know this. But, over on the basketball side, I mean, how many different – we've seen a number of different GMs come and go through there. Paxson, Gar Forman. And I don't know basketball nearly as well as I do baseball, but I know that there's been turnover with the Bulls. Hasn't led to much quality over there either, but maybe, just maybe, we can finally see something happen on the South Side. And let's see, what do they do? That Jake Berger, special burger. Sorry, getting other messages coming in. So I was in the process of heading over here, taking a look at the National League side of things. So as it stands right now, Milwaukee just one game out of the division, of the wild card, I should say. Where are they in the division? Oh, Cincinnati. I forgot. Cincinnati is pretty hot. They're really fighting for the division as well. And the loser of those two would be fighting for the wild card. Anyway, Milwaukee 1 game back, San Fran 1.5. It's kind of wild that the Cubs are deciding to go for it when you see where they are, that they, had been rumored to be trading Cody Bellinger. Some teams were offering, some teams were into it. And they're 7 games out. And again, just like the Angels, I don't think the way the playoff picture is formatted and the way the playoff tournament is structured, that I would never go all in just to try to get that 3 seed in the wild card standings, just to sneak in. You're only guaranteed 1 playoff game, and then you've really slipped quite a ways. So not a fan. I don't think the Cubs will make it in. Just looking at this right here. Yeah, I think it's a weird move. The Angels and the Cubs are in a similar position, and neither one would I be going all in at this point. I mean, they're 5 games under 500. So we'll see. We'll see if we suddenly see some things going the other way with the Northsiders trying to actually get rid of some of their assets. Jerry cares about the Bulls. The longest time, and maybe his priorities have changed, but he said, this was like in 03 or 04. He said, the Bulls have won 6 championships, but I'd trade them all to get the White Sox one. And, of course, fortunately, he didn't have to trade him in. We still got one. But he's a huge baseball fan. I don't know how involved he is, if it's going to be like the Blackhawks situation where it gets passed down to the kids. But I'd be all for new ownership fully. I'll never forgive his front office for meeting with Bryce Harper, who went on to say that he loved the Sox and the Southside feeling and decided to not even submit an offer. Oh, I don't think I heard about that one. That was such a wild offseason, and I believe that they never gave an offer, because that same offseason was when they were all in on Manny Machado, and I'd say that they actually did present a reasonable offer. It would have been by far the biggest in White Sox history, but they did all this weird stuff, like just trying to fill the team full of his friends. Yonder Alonso being his brother-in-law. They were trying to save some money by doing stuff like that, when it's just that they're playing a stupid game that obviously didn't work out. And I wasn't super crazy, to be honest, about either of them. Now, in hindsight, yeah, boy, I wish we got Bryce Harper. I am so surprised that there's not a lot of news coming out today at this point. Half hour left of the trade deadline. So I was going to ask you all, before I got sidetracked by something else, what do you want to do with Tim Anderson? Now, he is such an interesting case. The White Sox do have him under contract for next year. Let's pull this one back up. So we have Tim Anderson here, $12.5 million this year, an option for next year. There's that $1 million buyout is what's showing on the screen there, but it's a $14 million option. Trade him, says John Smith, straight off the bat. My hesitation, just to play devil's advocate and have a conversation, is would we be trading him low? Would we be getting enough for him if we were to trade him right now? Let's see. Taking a quick look. Rangers acquire Austin Hedges from the Pirates. Yeah, Pirates. Oh, yeah, I was going to check on them. How far have they slipped? Oof, they are way out. They're worse than the Cubs, but only by a little bit. So Pittsburgh is in definite sell mode, and they're about where the Cubs are. So I feel like the Cubs really should have been in sell mode as well. Pittsburgh's kind of an exciting team, and they started the year so well. And obviously they played against the White Sox too well. That was very annoying, losing games to Pittsburgh at the beginning of the year. But anyway, let's here. So, I love Tim, but if we're not going to put him at second base, he can't be here because he can't field at short. I loved it when Tim played a little bit at second base this year. Let's take a look at our top prospects. Because, I agree. Make those throws shorter. And I think he'd be pretty exceptional over there. And looking over here, here's our current top. Oh, great. This has been updated. I wasn't sure about this, but there we go. We see our newest addition, Edgar, right there, is slotted into being our second prospect. So our newest acquisitions are on this top 30 rankings page. And is it going to be top 30 something? No, it's still top 30. So some people fell off. When we look over here, we do have some infield prospects that are pretty high on the list. Obviously, Colson Montgomery at Double-A. He's probably not ready for the big leagues, but he's a highly rated shortstop. And also Jose Rodriguez here. He's a guy that I'm pretty excited about. He's also young still. He's a little ways off, but only 22 years old. But we have got some middle infielders that have potential to step in and maybe not be as electric and exciting immediately as Tim Anderson, but they're on the horizon. Trade like that. Trade Tim for Jake Berger to get him back on the team. There was interest in Tim Anderson from the Marlins, probably a number of teams. So it's interesting. Jake Berger going over to Miami is probably in place of their interest in Tim Anderson. Front office was probably demanding too much for Tim Anderson to make that trade happen. So you have to imagine, knowing that the Marlins were in on Tim Anderson, and they got Jake Berger. They're probably not in on him anymore. So that removes one possible trade destination for Tim Anderson. So just taking a quick look again at the news feed here, thanks to MLB trade rumors. Not a lot going on, just some more information on past trades. Nothing new yet. But yeah, there we see Kai Bush. That was a recent pickup. Nick Nastriani, new pickup. That's a number of people in our top 10, which is also pushing down guys like Lenny and Sosa, who, man, I feel like he's kind of one of those AAA guys that he does really well in the minors and is just not ready at the major league level yet. I hope that the rest of this year, as I said earlier, this is already kind of a pre-spring training. This is time for guys to get that major league experience, which is so much better than spring training experience. I really hope that Oscar Colas develops into a beast. We wanted him to be the next coming of Luis Robert. And it's definitely not happening yet, but it takes time. It takes time for some guys to adjust to the major league level. And, one tool that is already there is his arm. Man, he's got a tremendous arm out in right field. And I love watching him throw guys out. But he's a guy that is also supposed to bring power and good batting average. He doesn't seem to be a very good speed guy, but beyond that, he should be a pretty well-rounded outfielder. Yeah, so far though, Oscar Colas has, been a little bit of a letdown. Let's see. We're just going to put in more catchers on the team. Yeah, well, the thing is, when talking about catchers, as we see Corey Lee, there he is down at number 13. He was our pickup from Anaheim. And as mentioned earlier, Edgar Cuero from, or am I getting him backwards? Let's remind ourselves, because I am learning too. Corey Lee from Houston and Edgar Cuero from Anaheim. The White Sox, for a brief moment there, just a year ago, we're like, oh man, the White Sox are stacked. We have a great catcher in Yasmani Grandal. We've got Sebi Zavala, who looks like he has potential. And we've got this guy, Yermin Mercedes, who I don't know if he'll stick a catcher, but goodness gracious, what a bat. We looked so stacked at catcher, and suddenly, Yasmani aged out of the position and his contract is coming to an end. We've got a better look at Sebi Zavala. We need depth at catcher, and we instantly got it. So that's one good thing I will say about what's going on recently with the White Sox. But yeah, there's definitely more. Let's bring back Yermin. You know what? Why not? Does anybody know where he's at right now? I'll look for him right now. If not, I mean, I know for a while he was with San Francisco, but I don't think he's stuck there. So most recent game was August 30th of last year. So I don't know, what is he doing? Let's show the minors. Is he an independent ball now? He is not listed as even being in the minors. What about Carlos? I think that's Perez. Yeah, let's take a look at him. I know he is kind of our third catcher, if you will, right now. This will be the one. And he's not totally MLB ready, but let's see how his minor league numbers have been looking. So far this year, we'll take a look at that. 133 average, under 400 on base plus slugging, but it's a super small sample of just 12 games. Yeah, one double thrown in there. Do a quick refresh. No new news, so we're not missing anything. Yeah, we'll look at minor league numbers at AAA. 727 on base plus slugging. For a catcher, that's good. That's solid for a catcher. Batting average 246. Again, it's a little bit weighted differently for catchers. 11 homers, so there's a little bit of pop. 11 homers in 64 games. If he could do that at the major league level, you have a major league catcher. He's not an all-star. He's not a stud, but he's good. He's fine. Let's see. Was he on the top prospect list? Let's take a look at some of his rate numbers if he is on here. Oh, you're lucky Cespedes. I've kind of forgotten about him. Perez must not be Perez is not a top 30 prospect for the White Sox. That's kind of surprising. Let's take, I'm on the wrong page. You guys aren't seeing what I'm looking at. Norge Vera is a guy that I'm excited about. Boy, he's still only in high A. He's got a ways to go then. Let's take a look at Ulecki Cespedes just to see what he's been up to. In Birmingham, just a 203 average. That is so disappointing. I have the highest of high hopes for him in AAA, just batting 624 on base plus slugging. Oof. Only 10 steals. I was just going to say, is he at least stealing? But no. All right. That shows you how shallow our depth is, that our number 16 hitter, our number 16 prospect is really not looking like much of a prospect right now. All right. Still no news. This has gotten eerily quiet. You know that the GM's phones are just absolutely burning up, going back and forth with each other, trying to make something happen, and tense last-minute negotiations, I'd have to imagine. So we did look at Carlos Perez. So any other topics? So Kenyon Middleton, I think, has probably got to be the most likely tradable piece that the White Sox will absolutely 100% move. He has been such a nice surprise to this team, as it was, he was just he was proven, but definitely not somebody that you were putting a lot of faith in, that maybe he would break camp with the team. And he did break camp with the team and has been very, very solid for the White Sox out of the bullpen this year. We don't even have his number here. I wonder for how much he's getting paid. It must be the league minimum, but it is a 1-year deal that he's on. So I can't imagine the White Sox would get too much for him, but the White Sox, I think they would at least get some sort of a lower minor league prospect, a wild card type of something for him. There's been some talk about Michael Kopech being a trade candidate. I honestly don't know what you would get for him. He's a guy that, as we all know, he was highly regarded at one point in time and has shown flashes of being positive. I'm not opposed to him being traded. I'm not overvaluing him. He's only getting a $2 million contract this year. First year of arbitration. He's got 2 years of control left. He'll be getting a raise, but it's not going to be huge. Of course, as we know, the White Sox ownership is so afraid of spending money. So therefore, I really could see Moncada getting dealt for next to nothing, which is sad, because even if you're saving the money, they're not going to reinvest it. So you'd want to get something back for him. Aloy better be untradeable. We have to have somebody to build a team around. He and Luis. Benintendi, I can't imagine that he's very tradable, because he's only doing so, and his numbers are his salary, as you see, only 8.6 mil this year and 17.1 going forward after this year. So let's see. Let's hope let's hope that we have some content here. Still no news over here. If anybody hears of anything else, as I mentioned, I'm really just for news, checking out MLB trade rumors. They tend to be very, very fast to update, but there's just nothing coming out right yet. Okay, a little bit more information on this White Sox acquisition. Patino, now 23, came over to the Rays as part of the trade that sent Snell to the Padres. He was considered one of the top 100 prospects. In 2021, he seemed he was cementing himself as part of Tampa's future rotation. He made 19 starts that year, appearances, 15 of which were starts, throwing 77 innings with a 4.31 ERA. That wasn't dominant, but he was just 21, so it seemed like there was a lot of room to grow. Unfortunately, things have not gone according to plan, missing most of the first half of 2022 to an oblique strain, and spending the second half as a frequently optioned depth piece. He posted an 8.10 ERA over 6 big league starts and 4.38 and 11 additional minor league starts. He's been healthy this year, but not able to get back on track. He's only tossed 4 innings in the bigs, spending most of the year at AAA, making 6 starts at that level with a 6.66 ERA before being moved into relief. So yeah, definitely it's got to be a bullpen piece. And I was guessing 25 or 26. Yeah, Berger was only 27, or is only 20. I'm saying like he's dead. He's only dead to us. He's only 27. Yeah, absolutely. It's surprising. We should actually spend a little bit of time That's absurd. A 23-year-old for just cash, even though it's a rough year. That's insane. Yeah. I think, Tampa must have just needed space on their 40-man roster. I don't remember what else they've been up to so far this trade deadline season, but maybe they're just making room and getting whatever they can. I'm happy with this. Again, it's just cash, and we'll get a look at him. And if he's worth it to us to hold on, he's under team control. If not, White Sox cut him free, and there's nothing lost really but cash, and probably not very much cash. Let's head back. I'm going to do a quick refresh, but then let's head back to the Burger trade, and we'll take a look at what we picked up, what the White Sox picked up for him. Here we go. Pitching prospect Jake Eater. Let's see. I'm going to just skip down to where they talk about the White Sox portion. Okay, wait. It's also possible the Sox simply felt Eater. I don't know yet. I'll put some of these up. Former high school teammate just got drafted by the Rays this year. They're making room for it. Hey, good for you. Good for your friend. That's really cool. Okay, so it's possible that White Sox simply felt Etter was too talented a prospect to pass up when presented the opportunity. The 2020 fourth-round pick had pitched his way into the top 100 prospect status. Yeah, I'm on the right tab. Okay, prior to undergoing Tommy John surgery. Ooh, that dreaded Tommy John. He's made his way to Double-A this year upon returning. A Vanderbilt product, and Vanderbilt, they train their players very well. He posted a 1.17 ERA in 71 innings in his first pro season before going under the knife. Pardon me. That's fun. I don't have a mute button on the mic, or I would have saved you. Oh, but I do have one over here. Sorry about that. He's returned with 39 innings of 4.12 ERA ball. He's still just working his way back. Fangraphs has him plugged right back into their top 100 list, ranking him as the Marlins' #1 prospect and number 54 in all of baseball. I'm pretty impressed by that. I don't know much about this guy other than what I've just been reading to you. And I thought Jake Burger was a guy, I mean, as I mentioned, I felt like he worked his way into being a part of the White Sox team moving forward. But at the beginning of this year, I thought Jake Burger was a guy without a place, that he was going to get squeezed out and the White Sox would have to trade him for almost nothing. Obviously, this season has changed things quite a bit. That is a solid return for Jake Burger. He's still going to be missed. Don't get me wrong. Scouting on Eater touts his mid-90s heater and slider that Fangraphs touts is one of the nastiest pitches on the planet. I'll take that. Etters also has a changeup that's well behind his heater and breaking ball. Both Baseball America and Fangraphs agree it can be an average pitch with further refinement. There are concerns for any young pitchers coming off arm surgery. His 12.5% walk rate needs to be refined. However, he's already pitching in Double-A, and it's feasible he could be an option for the White Sox as soon as next season. He might be on something of a limited workload next year, depending on how his innings total climb this year, but he'll immediately become the system's top pitching prospect. Okay, well, I hate seeing Jake go because he's so fun to watch. He's so easy to root for. I love the guy. But that's some excitement coming back to the South Side. You got to admit the fact that he's immediately the White Sox top pitching prospect. And that's almost found money in a way. Again, considering what Burger has gone through, getting through those injuries, and it kind of felt like nothing was going to ever come out of Burger's attempts to make the big league squad just due to all the injuries. But he worked his way to such a point that the White Sox were able to trade him for a really, really high-end prospect. That is impressive. I wonder, it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't know when the next update on farm system rankings, when those come out. Probably not until spring training, but it'll be very interesting to see how much the White Sox climb, because you got to believe the White Sox have really, really moved up that ladder quite a bit. It's funny you mentioned this, Zach the Potato, Garrett Crochet 2.0. That's what I was thinking too. When they were talking about Eater's workload being limited next year, it reminded me very much of what the White Sox had to do with Garrett Crochet, another guy who had he had Tommy. Did he have Tommy John before joining us? I can't remember if he did. You can correct me on that. But yeah, the White Sox had to kind of limit his workload in his first exposure to the big leagues, much like we're going to have to do with this guy. Is it Eater? Jake for Jake. That's why I was getting confused too. I like, did I forget his first name? No, Jake for Jake, Burger for Eater, or Etter. Let's take a quick look at his page over here, including if they have any pronunciation help. Sometimes they have that up here. They do not. Thanks a lot. But yeah, all right. It's nice. It's always nice to see as well a guy coming from having been through college baseball. I mean, I'm always, especially with um with young guys. Sorry, especially with pitchers. Here we go. And thanks for the hat tip there, Zach the Potato. Tommy Pham heading to Arizona, and let's take a quick look at where Arizona is in the grand scheme of things. They are in first place right now in their division. I'm going to take a look over here. They are, oh, I take that back. Of course, they're not in first place. Dodgers. They are, what are they at the top of the wild card? I'm having a stroke right now. It says this is saying that Arizona has the division. This website is lying to me. Is Arizona leading the division? This is the basic question. No, according to this one, Arizona's in third place, which I tend to believe that the Dodgers are in first, and that this other page has bad information on it. Anyway, going here, Diamondbacks are in third place in the division. I'm going to go to ESPN standings because I think it was Google that was giving me standings that had bad information on it. Arizona's been definitely a fun team this year. A team that seemed like maybe they would be competitive, but they have really absolutely turned the corner this year to be a serious team that you have to pay attention to. Okay, so heading over here, yeah, Arizona 3.5 back of the Dodgers, which is within striking distance, which is amazing. And yeah, they are picking up Tommy Pham from the Mets as the fire sale continues. I think the White Sox were leading baseball in sales made in the fire sale, but the Mets have pushed so hard, getting so much off their books. Tommy Pham got off to a slow start. Yeah, $1 million signing bonus for him, playing on a $5 million salary only. He's not due very much for the rest of the year, but man, I think it's just the Mets trying to get anything they could possibly get to get off their books because of the luxury tax position that they're in. It's going to be, here we go, big news. Jake Flaherty to the Orioles. Thank you. Although John wanted to see Dylan Cease go there, who's going to pitch for us? We've traded away so much that if Dylan Cease got traded. Now, granted, this would be the 100% teardown. I think if you were to trade Dylan Cease, a guy that is controllable for the White Sox for a couple of years. We'll take another quick look over here. Dylan Cease, yeah, he's got another 2 years of team control left. And granted, the White Sox probably would have gotten a haul for him. But also, just like Tim Anderson, would we be selling at a bad time? Because he's just had an off year, not a terrible year, but for him, a pretty bad year. And he's a guy with a ton of potential. I don't think the White Sox will get the value. I'd be more okay with the White Sox trading Tim Anderson than Dylan Cease by a wide margin because, again, somebody's got to take the mound, and I think we'd be selling low on Dylan Cease if we were to trade him now. O's close to acquiring Flaherty, so maybe it's not a done deal yet, but I think at this stage in the game, there's 6 minutes left on the trade deadline. Now, information will continue to leak out for the next 10, 15 minutes after the deadline passes. So a lot of stuff that's being worked on right now, it's going to get signed off on and submitted to the league office. But then, some paperwork will be finalized and news will break shortly after the trade deadline ends, which again, just 6 minutes away. No more White Sox news so far. Really curious to see. I would not be surprised. I think that there's going to be a big move. I really think Tim Anderson is going. Just a hunch. Um, I don't think Dylan Cease is going to go, but it's possible. It's certainly possible. And again, I think Kenyon Middleton. I don't know. I think he's going to go. He's not an exciting name, so maybe there's not as much interest in him as there was a couple of weeks ago. When this all comes down to a head, with all of your possible moves have to take place in the next 5 minutes, somebody like Kenyon Middleton is not going to be a priority for teams. So he might just land with the White Sox because nobody has prioritized trying to get him. Cease should be like done. Just trade our two best players on the team. I mean, our two best players. I don't even know if Cease would qualify there yet at this point. I mean, definitely Luis is number one, and we ain't moving him. Yeah, is Dylan Cease our next best player? Maybe he is. It could be argued. I think Aloy. I'd still put Aloy ahead of him. and Aloy is another guy who he's had a good year, and I'm excited for him. I'm happy to see him staying healthy, except for that really freak thing, which was appendicitis. You can't blame him for that. It's not like when he tore his bicep trying to rob a home run in spring training for no reason and then losing half the year. As we tick down, 4 minutes left on the trade deadline. And as mentioned, we will go a little bit over. What's happened each year, the last 2 years I've done this, is that news broke like 15 minutes after the trade deadline ended. So the trade happened. It just wasn't yet announced. Press releases weren't sent out. So we know that things will continue to come out. But just a couple minutes left before the very, very end. Mariners DFA Colton Wong. Red Sox interested. So it's an interesting thing we haven't had a chance to talk about yet, but Bo Bichette getting injured last night. This is how things can just change so drastically and wildly. A very important player for the Blue Jays getting injured the day before the trade deadline. Suddenly the Jays have a hole to patch. And yeah, I thought that was going to lead to a Tim Anderson to Toronto move. Remember, we traded Frank Thomas. Did we trade him? That was at a time in my life where I think I was just entering college and was just so busy with everything else that, I mean, I know we didn't bring him back. Did we trade Frank Thomas? What did we get for Frank Thomas? What could you possibly get? And I think it's so BS. You know, people like Frank Thomas, people like Mark Burley, they should have been White Sox for their entire careers. But yeah, we have. Oops, I looked up Mark after all. My screen again. Link's not working. Please stand by. So, oh, I don't know what happened there. My web page is freaking out. Yeah, I thought he just signed free agent deals with other people. Yankees got Kenyon Middleton. All right, so there we go. Which is very interesting because let me switch over here. Very interesting because the Yankees had just announced that they are going to be open to trading away. They're going to be kind of modified sellers, that anybody on an expiring contract or maybe with very little team control, that they would be open to trading. Yankees are they in last place in the AL East, even though they're like 4 or 5 games above 500. Yankees got Kenyon. It's not on MLB trade rumors yet. Yeah, just looking through little details coming in from previous trades, but I'm not getting the Kenyon Middleton info yet. See, AJ Brzezinski. Oh, were you talking about AJ being somebody that should have retired a White Sox? Because I would have agreed with that. I loved having him on the team, and he was still valuable when we dropped him. Do we have anyone in the bullpen for tonight's game? Yes, I think I have friends that live in the neighborhood that are getting warmed up just in case they get the call, because just need somebody to be able to step in. I'm not even sure who is set to pitch tonight. By the way, lucky have we been that Tuki Toussaint is actually a fairly nice pickup. I think he was just off the scrap heap, kind of a guy that, let's get some extra arms just in case. He looked pretty good the other day. 4 shutout innings against Cleveland. I see we have Schulten's pitching tonight. Has he started yet? He is. This will be his 3rd start of the season and of his career tonight. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Here we go. We finally get it, and good job. Who said it? Who said it? Who said it? Who said it? It was John. Kenyon Middleton. No report yet on what the White Sox are getting back. Kenyon Middleton, again, we've talked about this already. He was just on league minimum, which was, I think, 720 or 730,000. So it's not at all a money savings thing. Sox will save, I don't know, 150 grand, 200,000 at the most, about a third of his deal. Now I wonder who's playing second base for us tonight. Well, probably Elvis Andrews. He's not injured, right? And he's not going to be traded, I think, just because nobody would have much interest in him. Phillies nearing swap. Bailey Falter for Urelfo Castro. Not that interesting yet. As the clock turns to 5:01 Central Time, so the trade deadline has officially passed as far as we are concerned. We're going to keep it here for another couple of minutes, another 10-ish minutes to see what news continues to come through. I'm sure that there's going to be something. Let's see. Zach, but would hit the lineup already done and put out. Would hit the lineup already done and put out. I'm sorry, Zach. I'm not quite following the text there. But anyway, yeah. I always have hopes that there's going to be another big story. And in the past, I was a little bit let down. We do know for sure that there's going to be a couple of other smaller trades coming through. But I'm not hoping that Tim Anderson gets traded, just for the record. I'd love, if he's not part of the White Sox long term, I'd love to see him rebuild value at least. We do have a $14 million option on him next year. We've cleared a lot of the lineup is on Twitter already. Zach, thank you. Thank you. I did not catch that. And it's probably on the White Sox page too. If it's on Twitter, it better be there. Trying to click on the game day. Ads. So yes, we have at second base. Oh, Berger's listed. Okay, well that's gonna not be true. Yeah, I'd have to imagine it's Elvis Andrews or Zach Remillard will be sliding into that role. It's always funny on deadline day how many players aren't playing because they're on planes to other cities. But anyway. Oh, there we go. Officially, White Sox not trading Dylan Cease. So that is, I'm very, very happy to see that. And it was kind of I understand that teams were checking in on him, and the White Sox said early on that he was one of the few untradeable pieces. You never know. You never trust him because that could just be, positioning and trying to raise the raise the stakes, raise the bidding amount. But yeah, Dylan Cease not going anywhere. I'm very happy with that. Because the thing is, just like with Giolito, I mean, I would have much preferred the White Sox extend Giolito than trade him, because how hard will it be to get a future starter that can pitch as well as either of these guys? So if you trade one, you can't trade both, in my opinion. Lance Lynn made all the sense in the world. He is in the last guaranteed year of his contract. It was expensive. Is he going to be part of the next winning White Sox team? Probably not. So I was happy with the Lynn trade, but the not so happy about the Giolito trade. Although I do understand it, and again, it's our ownership. We don't have a front office and ownership that's willing to spend money. Let's see here. Should have been him and Bummer to the O's instead of Jack Platts. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, did that come through yet? The Jack Flaherty trade. Last we saw that they were working on it. Oh, there it is. O's do acquire Jack Flaherty from the Cardinals. So that is a big move, and I've got some Cardinals fan friends that they've been wearing it like us. Cardinals, Mets, White Sox. We were supposed to be teams competing within our division, and it just did not work out for all of us. It's been a weird and hard year, especially in the Midwest for some of these teams. Let's see. Hopefully the Cardinals got some good pieces back. Very interesting. Almost no news out of the Cubs organization. Just to look across town, it's been fairly quiet. I got to say, the trade deadline activity started earlier this year than in the past. It started with the Lucas Giolito trade, and the last several years, it felt like nothing happened until trade deadline day, and then everything happened. The deadline itself was a little bit quieter this year because the trades began to trickle out a little bit earlier, and we still. I was going to give it another 5-ish minutes to see if anything else comes through. I'd love to get more information on what the White Sox are getting. Middleton becomes the latest player moved, which has been a significant pre-deadline sell-off from Chicago. Well, the Yankees have now made their first notable deadline move, maybe the only one. The Yankees were in such a weird position with a good team that's not in line yet to make the playoffs. Would they make a push? And clearly, no is the answer. If their only pickup is Kenyon Middleton, there's going to be a lot of pissed off New Yorkers. If both the Mets and the Yankees don't make the playoffs with an expanded playoff bracket, that's kind of funny. Let's see. While New York has been reportedly looking to add controllable pieces, the Bombers will instead make a short-term move in Middleton, who is a free agent after the season. I can't wait to see what the White Sox get in return. It cannot be all that much, to be very honest, but maybe an intriguing low-level minor leaguer. Just going to scroll back to some of the other past top stories, see if anything catches my eye on stuff to talk about. Reds, they pick up Sam Moll, a solid left-handed pitcher from the A's. Reds are leading the division. I was expecting and kind of hoping that they would do a little bit more. Brewers just barely on the outside looking in. They get Marcana from the Mets, who are just giving away everybody they can. Little bit of humor looking at AJ Pollock. He's getting traded. Cubs' biggest move on deadline day was DFAing Trey Mancini. So here we go. See who's on the 40-man roster for the bullpen. Yeah, we could take a look at that. Things are going to change a lot. Honestly, they're going to change a lot today, tonight, as the White Sox make organizational moves. 40-man roster. And this is not going to be updated yet. It takes a little time for these guys to get around to it. But the 40-man, we know Foster is out for the year. We've lost him all season long. Crochet is still out. And I think he had a setback recently in his injury rehab. So, so I don't know if we'll see him for a while. We have game tonight. Yes, we do have a game tonight. So minor leaguers, I want to see Davis Martin get called up. He's always impressed me. And I know he's a younger guy. He's not a polished major leaguer yet, but he has held his own, I thought, at the major league level. So I'd love to see him get called up. Nicholas Padilla, I'm less hot on. Oh, look at this. Look at them prove me wrong. Luis Patino is already on the 40-man roster, and the site has been updated. So I hope he gets a call up quickly, because I just want to see what we got in him. And yeah, Touki Toussaint has been really, really positive as a just found money surprise pickup that has paid off well for us. So yeah, there's the pitchers that we currently have on the 40-man roster. We have a lot of guys that are like, oh yeah, he's pretty good. Not like, oh, I love that player, he's outstanding. We've got a lot of, this is where the Bulls were for a very long time, where they had a whole lot of B and B plus type players and no stars. And you got to have some of those A plus type players filtered in. And Michael Kopech, we were hoping that he was going to be one of those guys, and maybe he will in time, but it's been a slower progression than we've come to expect. And Dylan Cease, he was there last year, and maybe the year before, even a plus type player, but not this year. I do absolutely still have high hopes for Dylan Cease. And it is 10 minutes after. I'm just going to give it another minute. Surprised that no other news has come across yet. Um, that's always the other narrative when it comes to trade deadline day, isn't it? All the trades that didn't happen that we completely thought were going to happen. It's been very surprising. Certain teams that just really did not make moves today. And I think part of that is that the making the wild card is not that much of something that you want to strive for. I don't think. I think I'm just not a big fan of going for the wild card, and I think other front offices might be thinking similarly. Because if you make the wild card and you're gone in a game, or even a couple of games, was it worth it? And I would argue not. Oh my gosh, don't even joke about getting Zach Diekman. I wanted him to be good. I really did. And he did okay against bad teams, but he was just not super solid. Zach, I think a lot of people want young players. That's true. People really tend to overvalue prospects. Oh, and here's another one. Another one not moving anywhere. Eduardo Rodriguez not traded. He vetoed a deal to the Dodgers. That kind of makes me laugh because Detroit is going to be stuck with him, and I don't know how has he been doing. Let's find this out real quick. When he actually does show up, 2.95 ERA has actually been pretty good, but it's wasted on a Tigers team that is going nowhere. And I think he's got a few years left, maybe 3 or 4 years left. Yeah, signed through 2026. They have the offseason to trade him if they want to, go that route again. Let's see, got to run. Oh, John, always wonderful that you stop by. I love the Beavis avatar as well. Zach, one idiot you could have been in the playoffs. I think it's just not worth it to go all in and then make the playoffs, which is with me, with the White Sox. Pretend the White Sox were a little bit better and that we were on the edge of contention. I was very hesitant about going for it too, because he because had the White Sox made the playoffs with this team as it's constructed, they're not going to go deep into the playoffs. And at that point, what's the point? I mean, it is always fun to have October baseball, but if it's only going to be for one series, it's really just not worth it unless you think you can really compete with the highest of the high level players teams. There's no reason to be going for it. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave that for right now. It's 5:13 now. And I'm sure as soon as I sign off, there's going to be some other little deadline deal that goes through. But the fact that nothing is coming across, even rumors that something's being worked on, I'm guessing it's not going to be any huge deals. So thank you all for sticking with me this is maybe our 4th time doing a deadline countdown. Always fun trying to figure out how to talk for about an hour plus straight. Especially when nothing is happening. That was a big lull that we got through in the middle of this, but at least we got to talk White Sox baseball with a couple of friends. So again, thank everybody for watching. I'm going to do a video. It's going to be live with a live audience again. A friend and I, in about a week, once I get the exact date, it'll be announced in advance, but we're going to do a review looking back on the White Sox trade deadline, our hopes for the future. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, ring the bell so you can join next time we do a live stream. We talk baseball overall, but White Sox, that's where our hearts are. So we will talk mostly White Sox. Thank you everybody for watching, and hopefully we'll have more fun stuff to talk about in the future. The acquisitions have given us reason to be excited about our farm system again, which is not something we've been excited about very much lately. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and hopefully it can be just a fun, stress-free watch for the rest of the baseball season, since we're not really playing for anything except development at this point. And I'd love to see some of these young guys get called up before rosters expand in September. All right. Thank you all for watching.